Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 6. We're doing this on the 12th of the 2nd, 2022. Christmas is coming, folks. We've had Thanksgiving. I love America, folks. It's the only place where you literally get 2 Christmases, Thanksgiving and then Christmas Day. You don't get that in the UK, folks. We've got a great show. We're going to be talking about the best WordPress membership and LMS plugins that you should look at. I'm sure Spencer's got some strong views. I've got some views. So, Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
It's Spencer Foreman from WP-Launchify.com, but you can find me now at spencerforeman.com. That's F-O-R-M-A-N. That's my new hub to all things that I'm involved with.
That's his new hub. He's all over the internet.
I've got a hub.
He's got a hub. That's
I got a great deal on gas and coffee if you come on that.
There we go. That's fantastic, isn't it? So, Spencer, we've got a diverse group of plugins. Let's start off with one of my favorites. He's laughing already. Let's start off with one. Let's start off with one of my favorites. They are also a sponsor of the show. The founders are friends of mine. Let's start off with Lifter LMS. So I'm just going to throw it over to you. How would you encapsulate Lifter LMS? What are, in your mind, some of its strengths and some of its weaknesses?
Well, in the world of anything you're doing with an online course or courses, you need essentially a librarian. So a learning management system, in my opinion, its first and foremost and probably indispensable feature is to be the organizer of your course content. If you don't have courses with lessons and quizzes and other things, then you probably do not need an LMS. It is worth mentioning that many of the LMSs that exist, there's really 2 or 3 main leaders, Lifter, LearnDash, there's a couple others arguably, allow you to do much more, like onboarding users, taking money, membership, subscriptions. I argue you shouldn't do that because you should use it for its highest and best feature, which is the organization of your course content, and otherwise use the other components we've talked about in our previous shows and we'll talk about today. Beyond that, though, the key differentiator, because I didn't answer your question, is Lifter is free and then you pay for the tchotchkes, but it has a very, very, very high amount of personal interaction from its founders, Chris and Thomas, as well as its team, Will and Kurt and everybody else who's now involved, who I know personally. So what you're getting with Lifter is a relationship as well as the things that go with it. And whether you're using the free by itself or the free with the tchotchkes, when you pay for it, you really do get something that's unique in the WordPress world.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Spencer. My part is that what they offer for free, they do offer a lot for free. They've got then add-ons, premier add-ons. They're about 120 each. You only need to buy one add-on, and that's for Stripe. They do add-on for PayPal. So for $240, or for $120, you're off and going. Like I say, in the free pack, they offer a lot for free. And then they've got an Earth pack, which I think is about 3 of their most selected add-ons for $149. They've got a Universal, I think that's got more of the add-ons, and they've got the Infinity, which gives all the add-ons that they supply. It's a mature product. It's been they've been part of the WordPress ecosystem for over 7 years. They've got a lot of integrations, and they've basically done things the right way in my mind. The other strength which Spencer touched on is they offer a lot of support and a lot of training at different levels. You can't expect to get too much if you're just utilizing the free product, but they offer a Facebook group, other forms where you still get a fair bit of support, even if you're just using the free product. And they're very easy to engage. If you pay for one of the paid packs, the Earth, the Universal, Infinity, as you go up, you get more and more training from them, more engagement. They're a really great crew, aren't they? Really, very honest people, aren't they?
I mean, I would honestly just suggest that people think of it like that, because I would be the argumentative one to repeat myself, but I don't, even when using Lifter, recommend anybody sell their stuff with the Lifter integrations with Stripe and everything. You're going to use Lifter with WooCommerce and or do things for free. But the difference between doing it with that and LearnDash and something else would be, basically, if you need the kind of relationships that they offer and the help and the community, it's a great place to start. And the software has been, refactored recently, and it's always being upgraded by Thomas. But the point is, it gets you into something that wraps you with the kind of experience and other individuals. And I think that's really the thing you're buying. You really are.
Yeah, if you're serious about building a real business and you really want, and you're looking at WordPress, you could go do a lot worse than looking at this. But you've got to be the type of person that really wants to build more than one course, and you're going to get a lot of functionality, and it's a great place to start because of all the support you get. Let's move on, Spence. Let's look at something totally different in a way, but it's MemberPress. So I'm just going to throw it over to you. What's your views on MemberPress?
MemberPress is the 1977 Chevrolet Corvette V8 or the 1877 horse and buggy. It was and still remains for many people the only game in town if you wanted an all-in-one plugin that, back to our use of the term framework, was like a framework in a plugin. It onboarded the users, it took the money, it does the subscription, it protects the content, it allows you to do basic courses. But it does so in today's world at a very high cost, kind of like the metaphor I use all the time of the kid who wants to learn to ride a bike, and so parents buy a tricycle instead of a 10-speed with training wheels. When you get into MemberPress, you're in MemberPress, and you lose some of the feature-like interconnectivity you would get from doing a different stack where, as I just mentioned, you're only using the LMS for the features of organizing content, and you use other more appropriate plugins like WooCommerce, WP Fusion, and so forth for connecting to everything else. And if somebody comes to me in today's world with MemberPress, it's usually because they are having a difficulty with, albeit an amazing plugin from a different generation, they have a Tesla. And they're trying to figure out, how can I connect my wagon to the back of my Tesla? Or where do I put the gasoline in my Tesla? And I'm like, stop. You have to remember, you've got something from a different generation of WordPress that's got stuff that overlaps now with better feature-only plugins. And I think that's where the mindset has to be. Is it good enough? Yes, if you stick with just it. Very similar, we talked about in the past, like, other plugins that do one thing as a framework. But if you're trying to make a Lego block or an IKEA kind of feature stack, MemberPress too much.
Yeah, I would agree with what. Yeah, I think if there's two reasons why people really look at this. Apart from all the SEO, all the content they've got out on the internet, is the development team are really great people and they know what they're doing. It's a good, technically it's well coded. If you're just looking to just do one course and you're not looking at some of the SaaS products that we looked at last year, like Learnable, Teachable, you want to do it in-house. I think it's a great alternative than utilizing like Learnable or Thinkific. The other thing is it's got its connection with LearnDash. If you really want to sell subscriptions and you don't want to go down the WooCommerce route, it's got a lot of linkage with historically through SEO, through article placement, with people looking at the LearnDash solution. So that's why people tend to go down that route when they are really looking at LearnDash, in my experience.
I agree, but this is sort of maybe a good time to mention a really esoteric point, but something that people will probably acknowledge if they're listening to this and go, oh, that sounds like me. Integrations are great, except when you get to 80% of what you need with integrations, and then you realize the other 20% doesn't exist. And now you realize, God damn it, why did I do it that way? Because it's sort of back to the metaphor of Legos, right? You can't build something with 80% of Lego blocks and 20% Tinker Toys. It doesn't work that way. It's got to be 100% Lego blocks. They're all compatible as features, or it doesn't work at all. And I think that's what's happening in the world we live in, is that most of the people who are using one of these all-in-one things come across like, oh, I use this integration, that integration, this, and they go, why can't I do this anymore? And now they have to create a Frankenstein monster or a Band-Aid or an API webhook monster versus having chosen something differently as the stack. And again, Blair, as a professional, outstanding, great founder. He's one of the originals. But listen, there's still wagon makers out there and people that raise horses too. Just understand what you're buying if you've got a Tesla.
Yeah, that's one of the purposes of this show. We're going to go for a break, folks. A couple of messages from our major sponsors. Much appreciated their support. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back. I'd like to point out we've got some great special deals from our sponsors. Also, if you're looking for a specific plugin or a SaaS service to help you with your membership website, I've curated the best of the breed. They're all listed on the WP-Tonic website. You can get these special deals and the recommendations by going over to WP-Tonic/deals. WP-Tonic/deals. So let's go on to the next in our list, Spencer. LearnDash. What do you think of LearnDash?
I mean, we just discussed the idea that LearnDash is probably, along with Lifter, one of the granddaddies of the whole LMS thing. And prior, to it being sold to, I always make a mistake if it's Liquid Web or one of their companies.
It's very confusing. They've got so many names, haven't they?
There's so much going on.
Well, they have any. Don't you think it's confusing? They've got Stellar WP.
I mean, it's either Stellar WP or it's Liquid Web or it's one of the sub.
What's the other one?
It makes no difference.
What's the other one? Well, I think it's hilarious myself, but there we go.
I mean, I know almost all of the players.
It's almost as bad. It's almost as bad as you.
I won't say who has said these things, but I'm friendly with, professionally and otherwise, with most everybody who works there that's in charge, and they'll say the same thing to me. They'll be like, every day we don't know.
I imagine they need a spreadsheet to know which.
I mean, the products and the services are fine. It's just the management is very unusual because it's a family-owned business at the top end, and so there's a lot of moving stuff. Anyway, to the point, LearnDash is probably our number one use plugin for anybody with a business with LMS. We just discussed Lifter. And while there are instances where we may recommend Lifter first and foremost, for most businesses that are established with the product market fit or enterprise, we tend to lean in on LearnDash first and foremost because it's well known that there was over $1 million spent on refactoring the code. There's an infinite amount of add-ons. The way that it works has certain key features, one of which I can mention because I've discussed this openly with Thomas and Chris, and I'm not sure why they don't do it. LearnDash allows you to set the permissions required to view a course. Now, what does that mean? It could be free. Anybody can see all the stuff. It could be free, requires registration after you've logged in, but otherwise free. It could be closed. It could be, you have to buy something. You have to be put in via an API. But the ability to do that means that we have the ultimate flexibility to create the kind of use only this feature of LearnDash and connect the person's membership by some other means. Whereas, unfortunately, in Lifter, and this is a little nuanced, you got to enroll in everything. It's either open or it's enrolled. And I find that quite frustrating because I have to create like a false zero amount accessibility kind of a placeholder. And all these
you're absolutely right. There are some workarounds, but why they don't sort that out, I have no idea.
I've discussed this, and it's just the nature of how it came to be. But like, for example, some of the lighter plugins we discussed might be on our list, but LearnPress. LearnPress is a plugin that is quite attractive to me for many things because of the fact that you can just set it like LearnDash. But if I was honestly saying where we're going to start, 99% of people, I'll just start them on LearnDash. And if they're my client, I'll let them use my license or something, because the point is LearnDash has all the other, ecosystem stuff. LearnPress is quite clever if you got one or two courses, and it solves that one problem that, if you guys are listening, please, Thomas, Chris, make an option in Lifter that you could just have a course that's protected with the tag, and don't have to be enrolled or any of the nonsense or whatever, because the accessibility option is a sort of a drag. And that's unfortunate, because I've been doing testing lately on how to deliver these, WordPress as a service solutions. That's one of my main business focuses for this year and beyond. And I find it very difficult to use Lifter for that reason.
Well, I'm not going to respond to that.
I'm going to say it because it's nuanced, but it's like, if you want to set up a generic, here's a baseline, right? There's a certain number of steps that you're going to go through. It doesn't change any of the positive things we were talking about. But I'm saying for many people, they just want an experience like turn it on, put my courses in, and I'm done, right? And for that, it's nice to have those options.
Yeah, I've got to be very careful with my words, listeners and viewers. I can easily upset Uncle Spencer. So my position, it's one of the things you've got to understand, folks, when you're going to build something in WordPress. One, it's a bit of a flea market. Two, it's reliant about how it integrates with other products, other elements in the WordPress ecosystem. LearnDash, the founders, Justin and his wife, really, they were from, especially Justin, were from a training background. They also did, like Spencer remarked, before they sold it, they did spend an enormous amount refactoring the code. In my mind, it's got a slightly better UX design than Lifter LMS. The people that refactored the code are well known, 10 Up. I think I'm correct that they did the work. They're great. It's a great WordPress development agency. Jack, the founder, they know what they're doing. But it's got these strong linkage. It's got strong linkage with BuddyBoss, which Lifter LMS doesn't have. And a lot of our clientele are looking at BuddyBoss. When they go to the BuddyBoss site, it talks all about LearnDash. So they're trying to persuade them to look at something else is a waste of time. They're committed to BuddyBoss, LearnDash, and it's a great product. It hasn't got. If you're not going to use WooCommerce with it, you're going to have to use another system, because it hasn't got the sophisticated payment internal shopping cart that Lifter. And I know Uncle Spencer hates me for saying this because he's totally committed to WooCommerce.
I
And
mean, you're saying, I'm not interrupting you because what you're saying is valid,
yeah,
but it's 180 degrees from what I recommend, as you acknowledge.
yeah, and he gets very annoyed with me, but and I'm trying not to upset him because he's very calm.
You're not upsetting me. We're offering, I think today's show is very balanced. I'm saying we're offering a balanced 50-50 on this one. You're saying A and I'm saying B, and they're opposite recommendations.
No, it's not that actually. I totally agree with you. Actually, I'm just pointing out, trying to persuade somebody that has been bombarded by out of date blog posts and YouTube videos, and they've spent 2 days and they've already made their mind up, and trying to persuade them that they should use whatever we're discussing with WooCommerce is a bit of a wasted discussion to some extent, Spencer. But you are totally correct.
I mean, I'll clarify to the extent it's useful. So if somebody needs to directly sell access to a course, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, because whether they use the Stripe or the PayPal integration, both Lifter and LearnDash have it. If you are going to build the stack of things that I've been recommending, obviously I've made it clear 1,000 times. WooCommerce is essential to that, and it costs somebody actually very little extra time compared to the benefits. So your points are valid. I support you in saying that, and I appreciate you being sensitive to my hair trigger. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to misunderstand. We actually just did say almost the opposite recommendations. LearnDash has a really nice WooCommerce integration that when you're doing tags means you can essentially have one product in WooCommerce, and you can say that if somebody buys this, they immediately get access to this, that, the other courses. And if you want, you can give them a tag. That's so powerful. And again, a similar feature exists in Lifter, but the difference being is if it's not a free course, you have to have sort of this free proxy enrollment placeholder thing, where you don't need that in Lifter, in LearnDash.
On to the next one. Paid Membership Pro. Really, if you're looking just to do one course and you're committed just to use a membership plugin, I would suggest Paid Membership Pro myself. Great team, great husband and wife team, just great people, basically, with great history. The Colemans, they're just great people, really. It's a great plugin. What's your feelings, Spencer?
The Colemans, and I think it was originally Jason and his wife maybe came on, but as it grew, she's really outspoken now. She does all the outreach and stuff. So they're outstanding support, really personal relationship with the customers. The plugin was always being updated. In the early days, back when we were carving stuff out of wood, I really appreciated how they would share snippets and interact in their forums. I mean, that was the heady days when all of us were figuring out what to make. And they still maintain that. So with the caveat that you just put, if you got one course and you just want to sell it right away, then that would be fine by me. Just use a simple WordPress site, this plugin, and be done with it. That is about the extent to which I can recommend it, because otherwise everything else that I said kicks in. You're buying a tricycle in a world of features, and I don't.
Yeah, it's very similar to our last week's episode, but in the SaaS world. I had to take a very long shower after that episode. Actually, I felt a bit dirty, but
I cried myself to sleep.
Yeah, it was terrible discussion. Yeah, I know you do. He's so nice to me, folks, isn't he? But I hate it out, so I've got to take.
My audience sent me roses after.
I bet. Well, not that one. The one after that, you almost had a nervous breakdown, didn't you? I think you needed therapy after that show. But it's very similar to what we discussed last week with the SaaS. You know, if you're looking just one course, maybe look at Thinkific. If you're committed to a SaaS solution and you're going to have multiple courses, look at Kajabi and a couple of the other ones that we were talking about. It's similar in the WordPress world. If you're just looking for one course and you're committed to a membership website and you won't look at Lifter, I personally think you'd probably be better off just using Lifter with 120.
It's in the same realm
with the Stripe add-on. But people don't even. It's not disagreeing with you, Spence. It's just that people, they go online, they do a big dive, and it's very hard to persuade them when they've got a set. They've already told themselves where they're going, and
somebody has told them.
Yeah, somebody has told them. Yeah.
But see, to a certain extent, let's back up the truck and let's look at the automotive industry for a moment as a comparative, because now that we're in electrics, right? There's a guy, Rich Rebuilds, who used to talk about rebuilding Teslas from parts, and now he's moved on. But he recently had a video I saw about buying a Rivian, but he lives on the far East Coast, and there are none of the Tesla network of chargers. So he had an 1.5-hour video where just to go 200 miles took him like 6 days because of all the complications. But here's the point. Let me finish, please. The point is, in WordPress, we've evolved really quickly, just like the automotive market is for electric, to a situation where I think there's now 2 legitimate trains of thought. You either are going to do a simple site where you just need like a SaaS solution, like WordPress as a service, in which case there are, look, we've got a dozen competing products that are framework-like plugins. Just pick one of them, put them on a website, you're done. And somebody could legitimately, as a freelancer, make a business. Just here's a website with everything set up using Paid Memberships Pro. Done. Lifter already does that on Cloudways. But the other option is, I kind of know that I need more than just what this framework plugin does. So I better just use a different stack where the features. And the reason that that's similar, let me just round, I'm almost in. The reason it's similar is you buy a today's electric car, you think, oh, everything must be like a Tesla. But the devil is in the details. Guy buys an $85,000 truck and he can't get it home from Florida because there's no charging stations that work with it. Similarly, you buy this plugin and you think, oh, everything's set. You get all your content in, you spend a month, you pay a designer, you realize, damn it, I should have done it differently. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I was just going, did you have to swear when you were saying that?
Oh, sorry. Was that, is damn a swear?
No, Cloudways. Did you have to say that? Right.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying it's I'm not recommending him here. I'm saying that Chris and Lifter have a thing with Cloudways.
How can you say that? You got a Paisley bloody t-shirt.
I have this because I went to WordCamp US and it's an awesome fitting shirt and it's got neat little bling, but I'm keeping the logo below. Right. Paisley doesn't exist anymore anyway. It's already part of GoDaddy.
Well, we're going to go for our break, folks. We've got a couple of other sponsor messages. We will be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. Just want to point out, if you're looking to build a membership website on WordPress, you need great hosting. That's what WP-Tonic offers. We offer a suite of plugins, over $10,000 worth of plugins. Plus, we set everything up for you. We make the experience of utilizing WordPress for your membership LMS just really easy and painlessly. So go over to WP-Tonic and buy our hosting and you won't be disappointed. On we go, Spencer. Sensei LMS. Talk about the devil and that. It's totally the opposite, because they're if you're going to utilize Sensei LMS, you're committed to WooCommerce. That's one of, it's like from one extreme to the other of this flea market that we're discussing, isn't it? It's quite fascinating, really, isn't it? What's your thoughts about Sensei LMS?
Well, so Ronnie Burt and his team of 17 people were put in charge of fixing what's wrong with Sensei.
Huh? They're happy crew.
Yeah, Ronnie's the nicest guy. I mean, the nice guy. Ronnie and Chris are at the same level of super chill people. Like they
wish I was. I wish you were.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly the same thing. Like getting to be the get off my lawn, kids, old man that I am, I've come to recognize that my personality is based upon a certain difference between how they seem to be in public and in person and I am. I mean, I'm very, all right. So to the point, Sensei is like the wagon that somebody found in grandpa's barn, and they got left some money by their rich uncle to try to dig it out and dress it up like a Tesla. And maybe they'll succeed. But right now, I can't see why anybody would use the Sensei Pro for $149 a year on that old wagon when there are far better choices. Now, is it possible that Ronnie and his team are going to pull a rabbit out of a hat? Maybe. I was actually trying to get them involved in a relationship where I helped them to revive it by making it a feature type plugin. That was the same advice I gave here is what I gave to him and his team. But somebody higher up the chain didn't want to buy into the cost of my involvement in that. So as it is, I hope they still do it independently. But I would love to see Sensei become that thing that we've been discussing, which is it's a feature of WordPress and it works as an accessory without essentially forcing you to buy their special connectivity plugin to WooCommerce, because the connectivity plugin to WooCommerce essentially breaks all of the benefits of using it as a feature with, as I was suggesting, an LMS, marketing automation. So like as an remember back at the beginning of the show a million years ago, an LMS should be an organizational feature. And if it does that well, it's worth paying for. But when they try to add in the stuff and make it complex and all these other things they're doing, they're breaking its primary benefit, which is keep it simple, make it work with what already exists, and people will pay. So
yeah, it's really fascinating because Ronnie really's got a history in the learning LMS. He really knows his stuff. Yeah. Like I say, what Spencer said, he's one of the nicest people, and they're sponsors of this show. And they're doing interesting stuff. But he's dealing with, it was a plugin that was allowed to kind of semi-die on the vine. And then suddenly Automatic decided, somebody said, well, we've got to revive this. And they hired Ronnie and his team, and they're doing some really interesting stuff. But at the present moment, it has strong integration with WooCommerce, but that's all I can say. So,
I mean, I can add to my thoughts. It's my thoughts. He never said this, but my thoughts are the reason that they're spending money on trying to revive it is because we've discussed in other shows how everybody is racing to have WordPress as a service in a vertical stack. And if you look to the other hosting companies, like whatever, it's Liquid Web / Stella, whatever,
half a dozen names that they've got. Yeah.
So I'm saying like every vertical has to have an LMS in it, and we've got this old dog in the barn, let's bring it out and throw a couple dollars at it, like Tumblr or something, and ta-da.
Do you think I should give WP-Tonic 4 names? Do you think that would confuse people?
Your microphone just went very quiet all of a sudden. Say that again.
Do you think I should rename WP-Tonic, give it 4 different names? Do you think that would confuse people?
I think the thing that's interesting is that if I think back on how I get started in WordPress, it was from being outside in the SaaS world, where we essentially, in a world of freemium SaaS, took all these old PHP scriptlets. They were little scripts, they were scriptlets. And we just went to an audience of people who had never seen them before, and we branded them and made them work on that particular free platform. And everybody thought we had just invented Sunlight. Okay, so what I'm saying is in WordPress, most of the end users could give a darn about it being WordPress plugins or the names of the brands. That's only a fraction of the users. So I'm saying, yes, create a new product that takes existing stuff, white labels it, and gives it to an audience of customers as a really refined thing. And I think you've got a business model that's been proven, by freelancers for 16 years. But as a service in general, I think that's where the future is of WordPress. And I'm finding that that's where most of my interest lies. Right. Why do we need to sell the parts anymore? Why can't we just roll the cars off the showroom to an audience of people who want them?
Right. On to the next one. This is going to drive him. I'm going to drive him absolutely berserk on this one. He's going to lose his mind over this.
I had a vaccine last week. I had
you're going to go, what I'm
the
going to
fourth
say.
Jonathan Denwood booster shot.
You're going to go bonkers after this. All right. Sure members.
I don't mind that. That's
you are. Sure members. What's your view about this? It comes from Adam, and it comes from the Astra people. Adam Pazler. He's a smart cookie. He knows what he's doing, and he knows how to market. What's your thoughts about this?
First of all, Adam is one of the smartest, most influential people in the WordPress space. I think what I love about this, and he's partnered with several people, not the least of which is Sujay Pawar who does Astra and everything else. But basically, everything that they've created together is now under what anybody with eyes on can see is part of I don't really care that it's WordPress ecosystem. So for example, whether it's Presto Player or Sure Members or Cart Flows or blah, 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 all of these things are designed for the exact reason that I'm discussing with people here. It's that he's selling these either work as a system or work as a SaaS, irrespective of WordPress, solution. But if you happen to be in WordPress, they're also very selective features. Now, Cart Flows in particular, obviously I had to build a competing product called Launch Flows because I felt that they went too far with it. Sure Members and Sure Cart are my redemption. Because Sure Cart in particular, which we didn't mention, but it's kind of the sister
I was, and I thought that would really get you going. I thought,
but in a complimentary way for Adam, it validates that he understood the original problem of Cart Flows, that too much, too integrated, too frameworky. So he built an alternative the second time around. And Sure Cart and Sure Members are exactly what I'm talking about. And I would venture a guess that even though technically speaking, these are not cloud-based, it's 100% sure in my mind, he's building a whole empire around recurring revenue with a cloud option. A cloud option is coming down the road for all of these things.
Yeah, I've bought into his products because...
But anyway, just one last thing about the product. Same answer. You're buying into a tricycle. Now, the neat thing is that Sure Members is more of a feature and it still works with other stuff. But when you do it, then I ask you, well, wait a second. If you're going to still sell your normal WooCommerce stuff and you've got the ecosystem of every bajillion things that work with WooCommerce, and now you've got Sure Members and Sure Cart, you're kind of, now you've got two sales systems running off of the same business, and you're kind of like, back to the 80-20 rule. Like you got 80% of the way and now you bumped into yourself. So please, think it through. If you're just doing one thing though, it's a nice alternative. And by the way, Adam and Sujay are a superhero duo. I just feel that they cater more to the starting audience, which is appropriate because that's what his audience is for, versus the mature, ongoing business and enterprise, because the products always kind of hit a limit at a certain point.
Yeah, we've bought in big with them because who they are, and I got the deepest respect for Adam. Basically, the thing is, if you're going down the Learn Dash route, you're going to need some membership, and a lot of people are exposed to a lot of negative propaganda about WooCommerce. And so when you mention, he's going to hate me say this, he's going to cut my balls off after this. When you try and persuade them that WooCommerce would be a great solution, they've just been exposed to a lot of online YouTube propaganda that you shouldn't touch WooCommerce because
that's why I don't tell people.
So we don't. And the other problem with WooCommerce is this insane policy of the owners that that if you're doing subscription, you got to buy the subscription add-on for $199, and it's just it's insane.
Well, it's insane. It's insane at one level, though, and I want to bring this out. We're very rapidly coming up to where the value proposition of buy them on their own plugins is going away. I'm not saying it's going to go away permanently, but I'm saying that when you're talking about utility plugins, and if they're overpriced, people will just do things to get around it. And one of the ways to legally get around it is just to acknowledge you don't need to be registered to use the plugin. It's open source. So if you have a client who is using, let's say, WooCommerce, and hold on, this conversation is 16 years old. As an agency, as a person building stuff, for certain utilities, the person is never on their own going to get the support directly from WooCommerce. And if you have an ongoing recurring relationship with them, a lot of times what we say is, look, buy the license for unlimited sites or buy the license for 5 sites and be the intermediary, for yourself or otherwise. When you're buying it on your own for your own business, I mean, $199 is like a very small amount of money. I mean, even for that, because it opens up so many doors. So don't let the $197 scare you off. Many of these other plugins we talked about are $247, $297, much more.
Yeah, that's true. But just what WP-Tonic, because we offer all this as part of our hosting package.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're an intermediary. So people, why do they need to worry about buying all the licenses? They just go through you and pay you, and you give.
We don't. Well, because it's a one-site license. It's a one-site license basically. So we offer Shore members with Shortcut.
I'm saying support and updates are what you're buying when you get a license. You are doing the support and updates, so they're buying the license from you. The software is being supported by you, updated by you.
All right, to you all.
Which is a model we use as well.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, folks. We've got another few plugins to discuss. You can watch the rest of the show on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. So Spencer, what's the best way for people to find out more about you? And you'll be in a happier mood because you're not dealing with me as well. So what's the best way for people to find out more about you?
Go to spencerforman.com, SpencerForman.com. It's got a hub to all my other stuff as well as my latest content. I would also ask everybody to go actually sign up to my newsletter, because what's going to happen for me, and I'm trying to show this as well, we've got a lot of things changing in the social media, social network space. And as a result of that, I feel that there's going to be, mark my words, a resurgence back to the good old days of blogs and newsletters. Okay, because we're seeing all kinds of crazy stuff on Twitter and Facebook and this and that and LinkedIn and whatever. So what I'm saying to everybody is I don't spam. I send out typically once a week a very informative, very short newsletter. And in doing so, you'll basically allow me to also take you out of my banging you around Facebook in a feed or something, because you'll just get that one thing a week. So please sign up there.
Yeah, Spencer knows a ton of stuff. He's one of the smartest people in WordPress. And he didn't pay me to say that. I said something nice about you, Spence, for God's sake.
It'd be a shame if my sponsorship suddenly ended. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't say it just for the sponsorship. I'm not that reliant on the money. All contributions are most welcome.
I know everybody who's listened knew. I've known Jonathan now 15-something years, maybe 14 years. And Jonathan, I met originally, he was a client and a student, and then we switched roles, and I'm very happy to sponsor and participate with him. But we joke around that the money goes both ways.
It does. We're going to wrap it up now, folks. We can continue the discussion on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. Subscribe to that as well. Subscribe to the podcast is getting very popular very quickly. Thank you so much for your support. Please join us live as well. We do this at 8:30 a.m. You can join us on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook group. And you've got any questions about membership, we will help you. We will see you next week, folks. Bye. On we go on this very list. On to the next one. Tutor LMS. They came on my other podcast. Great product. seem to be building something. What's your views about Tutor LMS?
I saw the show the CEO was on, and she's lovely and very smart. I had a conversation with her. Oh, it's got to be going on a year and a half ago, about the fact that some of their other stuff, not Tutor, is a bit in the dark ages, right? So their themes and other things. Well, their development cycle, they have other products. It's not the point. But if you look at the company that makes it, they've got other page builder products and themes and stuff. And they're a little bit stuck a generation behind. But Tutor is pretty modern. The difficulty I have with this is that it's sort of like you got two main choices, and then this is maybe the third or the fourth. It's interesting, I would say, if you're already familiar with and like the company, and they are, there's two developers and her as the CEO. If you like,
you sure we're talking about the right people? Because I
maybe
thought,
not.
No, not Tutor. They're a pretty large development. They are big in Joomla.
Hold on one second.
I think you're talking.
You might be 100%. This is Themium, right? I think
they're big. They're big in Bangladesh. But they were big.
I think I'm confused because I was thinking of the crowd from Thrive, who has their own LMS, and I apologize.
Yeah, we're talking because I interviewed them about a couple months ago.
You're right. I take it back, because that's Thrive Learning. I am wrong. You get a pony, by the way, for that. So sorry. Thanks for stopping.
Can you say that again, that I'm right? Because it's something very rarely that comes very rarely out.
You are 100. It is Thrive Learning. Jonathan Dunwood, ring the bell. I'm
going to edit this, and I'm gonna have it as a I'm right.
You know why I think I was in that frame of mind, by the way, and you do deserve the pony, is because you just published this morning or yesterday your interview with the Thrive CEO.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great. She was very impressive.
Do we have Thrive Learning on this list? I don't even see it on here.
We do have the
Thrive theme. So sorry, I made a boo-boo.
She anyway. You could tell she dealt with my nonsense very easily, didn't she?
Well, okay, so to try to correct myself without sounding foolish, Tutor does come up as the third, maybe fourth choice in some conversations. I have not found any real particular reason to use it for the same things I was just about to get to, which is to say, it's kind of hard in a world where you've got a really strong number one and a number two to, like, do I need a 3, a 4, a 5? I personally don't, but that doesn't mean that for some people who are familiar with this team, and again, I'm sorry that I made a mistake to the people at Themium, that for them, it might be a nice integration, because it obviously, I'm imagining, looks and feels and acts nicely with their stuff. I will say something too, though I have not tested it on this point. Remember, I was referring to that LearnPress. One of the things I was impressed by, and I think this might be true here, is that these kinds of LMSs don't have the same problem of LearnDash of looking like a dog ate your homework when you put them into something. So for example, Lifter and LearnDash both are agnostic to styling, to the point where you spend all your time trying to fix it. Whereas LearnPress, I just put it into 5 or 6 different themes, and it was like, it looked brilliant in all of them because it just had a nice generic style. And I think I recall from Tutor that the same is true here. Yeah. So it might be interesting for that reason.
But the thing is, before I interviewed them, they were really big in Joomla, and they still have a large presence, but it's over 100-person company.
Yeah, I really feel bad that I made a mistake, because I feel a little silly, but I had a conversation.
Well, I'm used to it, because every episode I'm silly.
I like to be right. So this reminds me of, like, I had a conversation. I was surprised. I have a good relationship with the folks at Hostinger, right? They sponsored our party and stuff at WCUS, and their team in particular are really, really young and exciting and smart. But I was shocked when I learned that Hostinger had 1.2 million WordPress users. And that's a remarkable number.
It's just it's amazing, isn't it?
So what I'm saying is, like, there's all these pockets, right? They say here 4,700 real user reviews. I mean, there's real pockets of amazing stuff going on in WordPress. So just like in the SaaS world, sometimes I screw up, but I don't mean it with malice. It's just that that's the problem in WordPress, isn't it? Like, that's a big flea market, and you can't ever find all the booths in the flea market sometimes.
It's amazing, man. On to the next one.
2 million websites, it says.
I'm going to be interested to see what you're going to say. Wish list members.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts about this one?
Okay. So, like, somebody asked, this one I'm very clear about. So, wishlist member was the original, the GOAT. Okay. In the early days of WordPress, it was the only game in town, and it was written with a protective system called IonCube Encoder, which meant it was the only plugin in WordPress for a while that was not open source. And the founder, who has subsequently gone on and done other marketing stuff, sold it. And then somebody has either kept it on life support or revived it. Yeah, I want to suggest something, though, like just an anecdote, because this could be totally irrelevant. When we just were with the last one with Themium, right, with Tutor, it said 2.4 million sites using it, right? Maybe that's free and paid, but like here, Wishlist, which is 15 years old, says 16,306 sites. And that strikes me as very odd. Like, that seems like a really low number for a plugin that's been here since cavemen walked on the planet. So my advice to anybody would be, I don't know what to say about this, but like, I'll
tell you, we had somebody buy our hosting last week, and they bought some consultation from us as well. And they came up on the Zoom and they said, we've been looking at things and we're thinking of using Buddy Boss with wishlist members. And I said, where did you get that from? And they said, well, we before we found you, we got a developer and he advised us to use Buddy Boss with wishlist member. And I said, I strongly advise you not to do that. And I thought,
I mean, is it open source now? Did they change it to being open source?
I have
because
no idea,
I think it is.
I'm
not 100% sure, but listen, Stu McLaren was the founder way back in the day. And there's a couple of these fun stories from, the old guys like us about what used to happen. And somehow Stu McLaren pulled off a magic trick that, unlike Chris Pearson, Matt Mullenweg at the time did not light his house on fire with his family in it for having a closed source plugin, whereas everybody else got taken to town about the closed source thing. So I don't know. I would say tread lightly with this one. Go in it with open eyes, because it's been around forever, but gee whiz.
Yeah. On to another one, WP Courseware, really great people. They've been on my podcast. I'm going to throw it over to you. What do you think of WP Courseware?
It's first of all, this is like we're
not going to be loved after this show, are we?
I mean, I don't think nobody has ever, by the way, nobody has ever held a flame to me about me being honest, and so that's the thing. My sincere feeling with this is, I know of it. I have not used it. I think this is sort of like the drink shelf in the grocery store. This is the green tea kombucha. It's like, really cool label. It's new. It's sexy. It looks interesting. I have no idea what it tastes like, but it just proves that there's room on the shelf for a lot of different beverages when you've got all these people competing to make the same essential features, which some would argue is one of the appealing things of WordPress. And it's true. The downside is when everybody's allowed to pick their own ingredients off the shelf and then try to make them work together, there's an infinite matrix of hair pulling that comes from it. So that's all I can say. I don't have an opinion based upon using this, but I do feel it's a brand I'm aware of, and I feel that it's got all the right features. Yeah. I think
they offer
beyond the particular plugin.
I think I'm correct because I've interviewed the joint founder, I think 1 or 2 times. And I think it was one of the first learning management /light systems out there. I think they actually started selling a Premier before Chris and before LearnDash. It's got a strong SEO presence on the internet, and it's a lot of people like the price, and they like. It's like you get. My impression, you get a lot of people utilizing it that are looking at Thinkific or Learnable, and they've got a WordPress website and they don't want, because of the 7% that Thinkific charges if you're looking at one of the lower plans, and you still get quite a few people looking at it from that kind of background, because all these different plugins, because of the realities of SEO and that, they've always like got their own tribes. This is the amazing thing about WordPress. So that's my take on it.
I mean, they do have a free, to their credit, they have a free plugin that connects WP Courseware to WooCommerce. So if, for example, you were favorable to their other features or to their style, you can do what I've been suggesting is the most important thing, which is it's modular. Even though it's a framework in the sense it's got all those built-in sales features, that's all that matters to me. It's not been updated in a while. It's over a year, but that could be just because it's not broken. But the point is, like they're strong, but by the same, I mean,
well, this is just a very competitive. We had a show about we've had a show last week where we discussed over 10 SaaS, and we got a show here where we're talking over 10 possible. It's a very competitive sector, isn't it?
I want to say, like, here's another Spence bringing in an odd metaphor, but there's been a lot of conversation about the open AI or the AI working in the code space so that it's able to search out people's code. And then if you're a person who's a developer, you can start typing and it will just suggest, oh, is this the function you want? And it grabs it from somebody. Now, what we're leaning into with things like that, or even when you're just doing like typing or even search results, we're moving forward. And this is just what I want to suggest to everybody. We're moving forward in the evolution of WordPress, in my opinion, where it won't be very long until nobody's going to be selling parts for WordPress. There won't be a reason to, because you'll be able as a marketer, as a salesperson, to just take 3-4 bits and bobs, put them together and offer them as a solution. Why would your customers want to futz around anymore with putting parts together? It's just no longer going to be relevant. So for all of these esoteric companies, I think they're going to maintain their audiences and they'll continue to have a nice recurring revenue. But the tinkerers are going away, because to tinker in WordPress, now sort of you're either WYSIWYG or you're learning React and other languages. And that's a big divide. There's no longer like a Home Depot for guys that work on, or women that work on their toilets anymore. It's like you either hire a plumber or you become a licensed plumber. And that's changing the ecosystem.
Well, I'm going to swap 11 and 10 because we're going to end with a high point. We're going to end with WP Fusion. So I'm swapping it around. This talk, I had a lovely conversation with the CEO of Fry Themes. So what's your feelings around Fry Themes? And they've just announced, or they had it, Fry Automator.
Apologies to them for confusing them. Hane, the CEO.
Hane.
And so when I spoke with her, it was, again, a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I think it's Shane and Paul.
Well, Shane, I've interviewed Shane. He's a hardcore, very, knows, he's a sharp cookie, Shane. He's no idiot, and he's a very effective marketer, online personality, isn't he? Swiss. So what more can you say? The Swiss, they always speak about 15 languages and look at you.
I mean, I love all the European friends and Asian friends of ours that are like companies that we got to meet for the first time in person and so forth. But
I said some very nice things when I was interviewing about Shane, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have a reasonable team too. I mean, there's just 20, I heard there's 20 or so people, I think, on the team.
You don't be laughing at my jokes. I thought some of my little puns have been quite good.
The takeaway, though, because again, I'm a little embarrassed because I mistook them, but now that we're over that, is that
Well, they're never going to sponsor you, are they?
Nobody sponsors me anyway. That's the whole. My business model is unsponsored. The only time I got a sponsor was to pay
Let's be frank. Let's be honest about it. You're totally unsponsible.
You can sponsor me to review your stuff, make content and stuff, but nobody does that. They pay me to like be honest, and so therefore, I'm speaking honestly. She was very candid.
I'm surprised you even go on this show because I've been classified as a freaking racist. I just love it. Right,
I'm not going to that conversation.
No, right.
So the situation with Thrive that she eloquently outlined, and I think they're aware of it, is that they've got this term is popular now, technical debt, from the way they built their themes and so forth.
I just love that. You love it.
It's a great word. It really.
They must have worked on that quite a
I mean, you hear it in a lot of places. It's the hot word, and I really like it because it gives me a great visual that you have an audience of people. And I mean, like there's other plugins like Visual Composer and things like that that are similarly situated. You have a group of people that are using a vintage technology that are fans, but you recognize that you can't move forward easily into the new ecosystem. Again, back to our wagon versus Tesla. You are the best damn wagon wheel maker in the country, and everybody comes to you for their wagon wheels, and they're paying you recurring. How do you go from wagon wheel person to Tesla accessory maker? Very difficult. And if you make a wrong step, you're going to end up like essentially Infusionsoft Keep. And that was, as we all have learned, Clayton Mask revealed that he took private equity and they pushed him off a cliff at the expense of everybody who used the product. Or look at PayPal. So I'm suggesting that they may end up just, quite frankly, building stuff that works with their wagons.
Well, I put this to C, and they before the virus, she spoke, and a couple of other people spoke at MicroConference, MicroConf, and they really seem to be leaning in doing at what Automator. They're going to turn it into a SaaS, but they've seemed to have backtracked on that, and they're now trying to get back into the WordPress good favor books. But I put it to her that were they going to do what the Divi Nick has done, basically thrown in the towel, and they're like Divi have decided to hitch the wagon to Gutenberg, and she seemed to push back. Then they seem to, for technical reasons, they're still committed to their page builder architect, and it must be a bit of a nightmare.
It's a conundrum because, like Divi, for those that don't know, and this is my view of it, but we've talked about this, and again, because Andrew and other people who are familiar with Divi led on to this early on, is that Divi finally made the public announcement we all knew was coming, which was Divi 5 is essentially moving to becoming a familiar interface for building blocks in Gutenberg, which is as it should be. I don't see any evidence that means that they're making as strong a move as Elementor towards being an independent cloud solution. But remember, Elementor had at last count over 15 million paid users, and Divi had 825,000, which, by the way, is still a goldmine for Nick and his team. Fantastic. But as a developer, Divi is really favorable with people.
He's such a likable person, but he's an animal of a business person, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's the point. The point is, like, let's take it away from the topic of today and say, why is it people care about all of this stuff? It's because somebody wants to make their livelihood, typically, with either the site they're building or being an intermediary or an agency. And when you're talking about tools, it's kind of like talking about computers or instruments or something. Some things stay the same and some things change. With Divi, I think it's really obvious to everybody that they came in 2014 really strong. I think it was around before that. Divi changed the market, but it made that deal with the devil that we used to discuss. Like one day, the technical debt of short codes is going to come to roost. And sure enough, it has. So for example, for me, I've been removing Elementor and Divi from all my own and my client sites, and removing Divi is not for the faint of heart.
To say that
it is an open heart surgery. You typically have to just man handle it, woman handle it, person handle it. You have to just go like copy paste, and it's brutal. So for anybody who's now making decisions, that's the kind of conversation I want you to have with yourself. Like, I'm choosing now things that are going deep in the ground below my high rise. Am I going to be willing to like dig up the foundation of the high rise a couple years down the road when I get really successful with this business because I chose the fast and easy route of a framework plugin? And I say, please, time out, learn from the past. Don't do that. And for companies like Thrive Themes, you know what? They'll do fine just supporting the people who are like, look, I like the building. It's fine. I'll stick with you guys. Do you have something else I can use to hang on the building? So maybe that's the business model. They just make accessories for the people that are already in their audience. And that's it.
Let's finish with a highlight, and let's swing from the totally opposite approach than Thrive Themes. And I'm not having a go at any of it. They're all, it's really interesting. They all have their different approaches. It's just fascinating, really, business-wise. But let's finish strong. Let's finish with WP Fusion Jack, one of the most talented, but he's a really calm person. He's totally unlike me, who isn't calm. I think I can be calm though. I don't know.
Jack's originally from Iowa.
Fun? Sorry.
Jack is originally from Iowa, but has moved to Berlin, Germany now for going on 3 years, I think.
Oh, brutal winters though. Brutal.
I think it suits him and his wife because they do a lot of traveling and the lifestyle there is very organized. So Jack is one of my favorite people and I think a very close friend now in business and otherwise. But the idea is when he posts stuff, his life is the opposite of mine in many ways. So he'll post, for example, his desktop and every monitor is perfect. The lighting. So
I did a screen share, and I'm a pretty tidy person.
I mean,
he looked at my desktop and he said, "You're such an untidy person."
But I'm saying, like, Jack, there's yin and yang, right? Like Jack and I get along well, in my opinion, because we have such complementary interests and skills and personalities.
He must be a saint to put up with you.
Jack has the benefit of he only is accessible through electronic means, but he's always open. We always talk about stuff. But what I love about this business is that we met several years back before this space really became mature. And Jack is really a person I refer to in every single conversation every day. I am shocked, and pleasantly so, that WP Fusion has become sort of the leader, if not the singular leader, in doing what it does, which is to be like the USB cable that connects both the various components, the feature component plugins, based on a user's behavior, to your favorite CRM of choice, many of which are external SaaS, but now there's one in particular that's a plugin like Fluent CRM. Okay. And that is the stack. That is now the foundation for every single thing I recommend to anyone. And I've said 100 times today and every time is that you now have a choice of just choosing a stack of features, one of which is the ability to connect your various plugins and components as features together based upon the user's journey. And that's, at the end of the day, all everybody wants is we all just want the solution. And WordPress didn't have the ability through its leadership to do that over the years, but now we can do that. And that's what my sole relationship purpose is in WordPress, is to be the flag bearer for this thing that should have existed before.
Using either LearnDash or Lifter with WooCommerce, with WP Fusion and Fluent CRM is the Rolls Royce approach. It's the
only Lego blocks you need for just about everything under the sun.
Yeah, it covers everything, but there's so much propaganda. This is the purpose of this show. I just want to finish off because I know it's been a long and you've been very generous with your time. One of the other things that really warmed my heart was the announcement of Fluent CRM, was their email template newsletter added functionality, because we were offering Fluent with MailPoet, but we probably, with our new offering, we just offer a Fluent. It was just great news. That I think they've done a really great job. What's your thoughts about what they announced a week or 2 weeks. I thought it's great news, and it showed the strength of Fluent CRM.
Okay. First of all, Shah Jahan and his team are comparable, if not in many ways, in some ways I like better.
He's such a nice guy. He's been very generous. He's
like,
a very generous person as well.
A human being, amazing. I have I've never met him in person because he wasn't at WordCamp, but I've never met Jack in person, believe it or not. The point is, like Sujay at Astra, there's several other foundational company owners that have like these big groups of things. So WP Managed Ninjas, the company underneath this, has this whole array of stuff. But what they did is they said, look, the email builder with Gutenberg is good, but we can do better. And you can still use Gutenberg. And out of the box, one of the best email builders I've ever seen. And now you've got it in a plugin that works inside of your stack. It just goes to my whole point, which is good things come to those that are willing to put training wheels on their bicycles and learn to ride, because things will get added to, bolt onto your bicycle that you couldn't put on your framework. There's no such thing that's available if you're using another CRM plugin or if you're using an external CRM. You just have to suck it up, Entreport users or whatever. And so that's the benefit of doing it this way, is that when you choose, and that's one of the things you and I do with this show, and I do personally every day, have somebody who's at the leading edge, who is unafraid to say the things you need to hear. Be patient. Do this today. It's going to get better. We've crossed the line now between it couldn't work or maybe it'll work to now it works, and it works better every day. And yes. So, but as far as like what I use it for, I mean, this is a plugin in a situation where with this stack, you're saving so much money. Why? Because your cost of hosting is nominal. Give yourself $50 a month, but you might spend $15 extra.
I know a host that specializes in this field.
Whichever host, Jonathan or whatever. But the point is, they're all around the same price. The point is, you got $15 a month for maybe $6 if you use Amazon for an SMTP. So call it between $50 and $65 a month for your infrastructure.
We provide that as part of our hosting.
Whether you get it as a package or you bolt it together. The bottom line is you can have an unlimited list of people who are prospects. Track their journey. Give them all the things you need in a way that fits your business. And there's people in my end of the space who will also, if you want it, give you, TV dinners right off the shelf or right out of the freezer. But do that versus the sort of nice but old-fashioned way of going to Home Depot and buying random things and hoping to stick them together. And just get on with your business, because I think that's the other thing that, remember I mentioned a couple minutes ago about AI. There's going to be, I'll give you one example that struck me. You could right now take maybe 2 components that are open source AI and stick them together with a landing page and sell like a search service for various things, right? Like the world we're moving into is not going to be about building stuff as much as snapping stuff together. Yeah. And why would you want to learn a skill of like being a tinkerer in a world of that?
I think we're all going to be replaced.
I mean, just look at graphics, right? You can now talk to that OpenAI thing.
I've come to the conclusion that the 1% are planning to remove us all.
It's because, look, I mean, we're both old enough. I'd like to end with this because this is the point of the show. I remember, I still have a computer from when I was a kid. I use it occasionally. It's right here. I have this computer and this computer interface, and it still works. People are shocked.
Well, unfortunately, I've got dyslexia, so I can't actually do. That's why I got into computers.
But what I'm saying is, just because this works doesn't mean it's the first choice. And where we're moving is like WordPress was a tinkerer's plugin, a tinkerer's system. But we've moved beyond that, in my opinion, to a, you know what? It's a solutions engine.
But just to finish off with them doing this, it really shows that Fluent CRM with WP Fusion and also Fluent CRM are clearly now around this email marketing automation are the 2 dominant players. Would you agree?
I want to clarify something, because it's not, I don't want people to mistake it for a membership plugin or for a LMS only. It doesn't do LMS. What it does is it allows you to use this metaphor. A user has tags, and then the contact is created for the marketing and the tracking. The user's journey, they can click or view or buy, get a tag, and then that's used for both marketing as well as for access control. But because you have that, if you use WooCommerce especially, the membership plugin redundant. And
the LMS part is just the structure, with the
organizational
quizzes, all the swings and roundabouts, but the marketing automation with Fluence, with what they've done with WP Fusion, you've got a system that is much better than almost all the SaaS, in my opinion. It's just, you got ownership, flexibility, and now amazing power, haven't you?
Yeah, the idea is, in my mind, if you think of the multiple things you can do and see and protect, the tags and the part that WP Fusion and Fluent do can be applied to scheduling, an LMS, to selling access to a video. It could be done for any number of other things, including your newsletters. The point is the modularity of the onboarded user and giving them tags and tracking their journey and all those things are now done by those specialty plugins. And now you just snap in the other things you want. Like, you want to sell access to a live event? Cool. Snap in an events plugin that works with the same system, or don't. You want Buddy Boss? Sure. Snap in Buddy Boss. And now, so the difference is these are not trying to be the whole system anymore. They're just the features of a larger WordPress as a, solution.
I think we're going to end it now. I think it's been a great show. Spencer's put up with my nonsense in a charitable and an intelligent way. He's the only person that can put up with an hour of me.
I've been vaccinated for many years now. So
yeah. The actual CEO of Fry Themes dealt with me very well as well. She kind of just was looking at me like I'm the idiot, which I am. We will be back next week, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye.